Brought to you by DIS, keeping companies connected with cloud-based solutions. Come on, City.
Conor, good to chat with you again. I'll start by getting your thoughts and reflections on Saturday. Do you see it as a missed opportunity to get all 3 points?
You like I say, you go into every game wanting to win and perform, and of course we're disappointed that we didn't win. We created not loads of chances, but some good ones where we've maybe scored in the past. So yeah, it's like anything, we're upset that we haven't won, but again, it was also that we got a draw and a clean sheet was a bonus because of the previous 2 games, and you don't want it to go on for too long. So it was good to sort of get a point on the board, but would have been nicer to win the game, as obviously.
Coming into the game, a lot was made of the fact that it was your first full week in training after what has been such a long and hectic schedule. Obviously, that offers the opportunity maybe to get some rest into the legs. But do you feel at this stage of the season that some of the players are a bit fatigued?
I think it's, nobody's ever been through a season like this in terms of this rough schedule. So people are finding out new things along the way. And even people who have had numerous years of experience and expertise, and, we're guided by the right people. But obviously there's going to be dips. There's going to be, 1 week you might do a certain amount of training, but the next week it might not be right because certain things change. Sometimes you run more in a game than the other week, and then you've got to tweak training even more. And this is the kind of detail that goes into it all. And and it's not just as that players are going to be fresh every week. Sometimes you have them games.
You talk about that detail. What are the numbers? What is the data telling you at the moment about the squad?
Well, that was one of the highest games in terms of coverage, especially from certain players who hit actual maximum statistics and actually covered more ground than any other game, which again showed, I think, how we played for the first 60, 70, where every time they had a goal kick we went to press and we were aggressive with it. And again, it's that risk reward. You're not going to get it right every time, and if you do get it wrong, you've got potential runners at your backline. So we probably had to conserve a little bit of energy towards 65, 70, because again, if you go gung-ho and just start pressing everybody, there's huge gaps and people are covering 60, 70 metres instead of being in a compact shape and covering 5 and 10. So that was something that we saw amongst the action, and knowing the players and knowing the loads, it was a decision that we made.
Speaking to Mark after the game, it was something that was mentioned, particularly those time phases that you speak about. And naturally, the point that comes away from that is squad rotation and using the players that you've got at your disposal, particularly on the bench. How big a factor is that going to be from now until the end of the season?
Yeah, it's the opportunity to do so. Obviously, we've got still a few injuries who are looking for a return in the upcoming weeks, hopefully, but we'll have to see. But again, that squad rotation, with the injuries, has probably become harder. You've got a lot of players there with a lot of experience, so we're sort of around only 2 left outside the squad, where at one time we were maybe 5 or 6. So we're in that position at this moment in time, and that comes from the busy schedule and how frequent the games are at the minute and the stress upon the body. So we're trying as well as we can to try and rotate and be flexible in what we do, but it's not as easy as it seems at times maybe, but we're trying to do the best we can.
When we talk about squad rotation, conversely, Elliot Watt and Levi Sutton have started every single game under you and Mark since you came in. How do you think they're coping with that workload?
Yeah, I think it's like throughout the season, players have ups and downs, and that happens to them as well. And you can probably maybe see it with decision making at times when people start to get fatigued. They generally make worse decisions. So that's something that we're monitoring, as well as players that can also play in that position, who can be flexible and versatile to slot in there. But again, they're massive to the team as well. And if you take an Elliot Watt out or a Levi Sutton, chances are you maybe lose some of the edge and some of the qualities that they do bring to the side. And also with them types of players, they're robust in terms of being able to do a lot of work, and if you're a centre half, you do a lot different running than a centre midfielder. So these guys have been used to it for years. But again, we're trying to be clever in what we do.
You lead me on to my next question then. If you were to rest either one of those two, who could play in that role?
You've got options of changing formation at times. Maybe to have just one sitting midfielder, but again, you've maybe got Ant O'Connor who can play in there. You've got Evans who can play in there. You've got Scales who's played in there, who's obviously a young player but performing well. So, they're the main ones. I think Reece Staunton can play in there when he gets back. So there is options. It's just when we do that and whether we feel that's best for the team or whether we change the way that we play to put less load on the players as well, and that's got to be put into context as well.
But when you make that judgment call, if you need to make that judgment call, will that be based on the opposition or indeed the workload of your own players?
I think we look more in advance in the next 2 weeks. If you're playing a team that constantly keeps possession, then you've got to think about different ways because you're probably going to do a lot more running in the game. So, these factors come into it. If you're playing a team that maybe you're going to sit off and defend the spaces a little bit more, you can afford to have a Levi and Elliott in there every game because the distances that they're covering are going to be a lot smaller. So it's the way that we tweak. It's the way that we try and monitor that. But again, all we're trying to do is do what we can to win the game.
In terms of Callum Cook's absence a little further up the field, have you found the answer yet to how you look to fill that spot?
I think it's hard to say if there's an answer. Callum's obviously a good player for us, and it's unfortunate that he's injured, and we've tried different options in there. And again, it's probably wrong to think that if somebody's ever going to come into that position for one game and be ready to be a Callum Cook, because it takes time to get used to the different pressures, the different formations you play against, the different types of teams, and the movements, etc. So, it's not something that it's easily slotted in, and it's you've got another Callum Cook waiting.
In terms of players that could play there, one is of course Billy Clark. How is he in terms of team news wise?
Billy's had sort of a muscle strain, and we've been monitoring it, and we're hoping he's going to be around it tomorrow again. But as with these conversations, that's probably at best.
How about everyone else?
Yeah, so there's no real, there's no new injury worries. You've got obviously Billy and Cookie, the most recent ones, but apart from that, we're good to go.
I feel like this probably gets asked to you every time we speak to you ahead of a game, but Bryce's situation, I know it's been a frustrating one for you. What's the update on that?
Yeah, so Bryce has sort of looked at his injury at the minute and where he is with his rehab and things like that, and again it's his a setback that we're trying to monitor and get to the bottom of. So, and when we have maybe clearer news, I'll possibly I'd say next week, early next week, we'll have some news on that to sort of let you know further.
Is there a possibility with Bryce that his season could be over with Bradford City?
I think you've always got that chance when you're not really sure what the problem is. If something's not healing the way it needs to heal, then there's ways that and means that you can help that, and that may require surgery, and things like that. We're fingers crossed that it's not, but it's not healed as well as we'd have expected. So we'll have to wait and see.
How much are Leeds playing a role in his rehab?
Yeah, I mentioned it, last week around the communication and working together as clubs, and we do that fantastically well as well as Leeds. So everybody's got the best interests of Bryce.
Away from team news, just talking about the season more generally, I think I'm right in saying that the point on Saturday leaves you 12th, exactly mid-table, 9 off the playoffs with 2 in hand. I think it's 17 off the drop zone, which is good news in that respect. Is mid-table, Conor, where you expect to see Bradford City come the end of the season?
I still think it's unknown because of how unpredictable the league is. You've seen Scunthorpe go on runs, you've seen teams in the league go on crazy runs. So it's hard to say, but I think our ambition is to get as many points as possible, and see where that takes us, and again try and become better as a team, develop and improve. And I'm sure if we do those things, we're going to put ourselves in a better position. But again, we're trying to work hard as we can to climb as much as we can as well.
I think that the recent dip in form has probably offered a bit of perspective as to where this season could be for Bradford City. You've always been very diplomatic, as has Mark as well, in terms of the playoffs whenever it's been mentioned. But I just wondered, going back to something you said probably around Christmas time about the underdog mentality, and that's how it suited you guys going into games. Do you think the form of late allows you to maybe retake that underdog mentality as opposed to being the side that are expected to win as a result of the run of wins?
It's a good question. I probably can't answer it with the feelings of other teams and things like that. I mentioned it before, where I think the skill of teams who are doing well is to keep that underdog mentality and to keep that drive and that consistency and that will to not ever take your foot off the gas. And we weren't under any illusions that the run and the form was going to come to an end, because it's not as simple. I think if anybody had the perfect remedy, then everyone would be winning the league, or everyone would end up with loads of points. So we were expecting dips, but again, I think the signs are that we've got a really good group who are putting everything into every game in terms of their efforts and the endeavour. And we just got to get back on track and push up the table if we can.
I suppose what I'm trying to get at is whether or not there's maybe an instinctive complacency, not like I'm apportioning that to anyone directly, but given that your safety is somewhat confirmed, okay, not mathematically, that maybe foots are taken off the gas somewhat, or do you look at it in a different way?
No, I don't think so. I just think factors come into the play, and it's like the Newport game. We played really well and lost the game. To decisions that hurt us, and it was set plays. And we looked comfortable for large parts. I'd probably say the Carlisle game is maybe the worst one that we've performed at. For certain reasons, and we got to the bottom of them reasons and reflected as staff. And we've played the last game in Oldham, and we've played them 4 times this year, and that's the best result we've got. So bogey teams are real as well, and we've got to be mindful and be switched on that it's not going to be a perfect world, and we're going to hit bumps and speed bumps along the way, and it's how we respond.
Spoke about 4 times playing Oldham. It's 3rd time lucky against Scunthorpe tomorrow. Yeah. You do eventually play them, hopefully, weather permitting, although I can't see any change in that. How big a change inside are they from when you played that 30 or so minutes last time in February?
In terms of the squad selection, I think they're very similar. But again, it's like everybody's playing a lot of games at the time, at this moment in time, and you're starting to see maybe changes to tactics in terms of players, and teams pressing as much, because maybe if they do get picked off, you've got players that can't recover back into the shape. So you probably see a little bit more selective in how people are operating at the minute, just because of the schedule.
And final one from me, just another question on the goalkeeping situation. I thought Mark explained it pretty well on Saturday, but does that then mean, given the reasoning as to why Richard was selected on Saturday, that the door is still open for Sam, and it's not a case of Richard is now the number 1 for the foreseeable?
I think what Sam's shown is that he's capable of being a number 1 at this club and at another club, because of the games that he played and the saves that he made, the clean sheets he had. So I think it was a really good experience for Sam to be at that level and to have that 14 game run where he played in goal, and we've changed it for a number of reasons that Mark explained, and but again, it's performance related now that we know that Sam's capable. So it's a healthy competition. They're both aware, and let's see what happens. But again, we've got 2 really good keepers who are fighting for that spot, and you can't bring one on just to get somebody on. So it's a tough one.
Cheers, Conor.
Thank you.
Conor.
Hi there.
On that goalkeeping situation, how difficult is it with that position? So as you said, it's not like another position where you can just bring one on for a change. It's not something that usually happens unless there's an injury or a red card. So how difficult is it to get the game time for the player that isn't playing?
Yeah, and you can have actual keepers that have 20-year careers and don't really play that many games because they've been second choice, and I think it takes a certain type of mindset. I think it takes as they come through the development to learn how to be a number 2 and even to be a number 3 at times, and that's a totally different skill to if you're an outfield player, because you're getting opportunities off the bench and things like that. But again, how do we operate with that? You work them hard. You work them harder than the number 1 because he's obviously playing the games. It's about their character. It's about having games, midweek and things like that to keep them amongst it. So that's kind of the situation that we find ourselves in.
I suppose it helps as well that it tends to be a case that the goalkeepers are pretty much a unit at a club and they all support each other.
Yeah, and you can see that support from Sam and from Rich and from Will. Rich was around the squad when he was injured, and he's the club captain, and it was brilliant to have him around as another voice and another personality that's going to try and bring the most out of the people around him.
Just changing the subject slightly, do you think there's a case for saying that because of the run you went on, other teams start to take more notice of Bradford and are maybe putting more attention in to how to stop Bradford playing?
Potentially, it could be a reason because of the form and things like that. Only they'll maybe know. But again, I think Bradford City is a really big game. And everybody treats it as a big game. And obviously, when you come to Bradford City and you've got such a big stadium and such a big history, it's always going to be a big game. So where we as a club have got to expect that. We've got to expect that pressure and expect that people are going to want to probably be at the highest in terms of the motivation. So we've got to go out there and do the business every game. So that's kind of how it is at the minute.
Yes, thanks very much. Good luck tomorrow.
Cheers for that. Thank you.
Hi Conor, it's just Nathan. Filling in for
Nathan.
Simon at the TNA. Obviously, just flicking it back to the game against Oldham. Obviously, the clean sheets was such a hallmark of that last run, of that really good run, sort of last month. Was that, for all it was a bit disappointing to not get the 3 points, was that really a big tick for you in the box to get a clean sheet back?
Yeah, I think as coaches, you've got to make sure that if long term especially, it's a gradual process and you're trying to improve. We've had a really good sort of defence in terms of goals conceded since we've come in, and we've tried to make the team really organised and so that they know in the roles, etc. And we feel that they're at a point where they're constantly getting better. They're going to have games where they do concede more goals because it does happen. But again, a clean sheet is brilliant because it shows that everybody's working hard. It's not just the keeper, it's not just the back four. In this team, everybody works hard. From the front, from the striker pressing to make it difficult for the centre halves to play passes in behind, etc. So it's a team effort. I still think we've played like that in the past and won games. And it's about sometimes you have to grind it out. There's also been games where we've completely controlled the game, but also worked hard. So I think as time goes on, we've sort of made progress with the defensive work, and we're constantly looking, evaluating and trying to improve the forward area, as well as not losing the defensive record and the defensive stability.
No, definitely. And obviously for you guys, I mean, you've obviously had odd defeats like the exit one, but this is probably the first sort of real test in terms of a bad run. I mean, how would you say, how much of it is just unlucky, like you said, in decisions against Newport, and how much of it is, do you think maybe little tweaks need to start getting made to sort of arrest a 4-game run without a win?
Yeah, we've got as much data at our disposal at this club. We've got lots of things that can indicate who can do what. And again, there's an argument as well as there's nothing as good as your two eyes when you're looking out there and seeing the fatigue in players. I don't think it's alarm bells. I think as we were going along, there was going to be blips. There was going to be moments where we didn't perform as well. But what I'm proud of is that the players are still giving absolutely everything, even though it's going against them at times, which shows longer term that they can come back from it.
No, definitely. And Jamie obviously touched upon it sort of 5 minutes ago, but like you said, it's the third time that you went to play this game. You said you've got all that data available as a club. How much of it is a case of saying, like, you'll obviously be prepared for those 2 games before? How much of it is saying, look, this is our dossier on Scunthorpe, go again? Or how much have you had to tweak from like that last time that you were due to play them?
No, it's without giving too much away. Things change, teams come in. You get some coaches who can see weaknesses in us and weaknesses in other teams, and they maybe switch their tactics because of reasons that they've got a different number 9 playing, or they've found a different way to hurt teams. So you can't just go, it's a dossier on Scunthorpe and we stick to that and it's going to be the same one. It's going to change. No,
definitely. And obviously they've only got 1 win in the last 8. They've sort of struggled a bit since that abandonment. I mean, how much do you focus on that as an opposition manager, a team that sort of has been struggling, or do you very much have to put yourselves first? Or do you look at that and think, well, that's not a great run they've been on, we've got a really decent chance of doing them here almost?
It's the same as Carlisle game. I think they'd won.
Yeah.
The exactly same thing, and look what happened. So we're not going to look at that and feel that we're entitled to win any game. We've got to go out there and perform and make sure that we're playing at our maximum, and that's non-negotiable for the players to play at their maximum. That's quite.
No, like you said about playing at the maximum and stuff. Just finally from me, obviously, their last 2 games they've scored equalised in injury time. You said like you started to feel it in the legs a bit against Hull after 65, 70. How much is it just drilling out the play just as much as you can? And if you're getting tired, just try and keep your focus right till the end, because it's the team that have proven they can go right to the end and sort of salvage stuff. Yeah, of course.
Obviously, seeing them goals and where they've come from and things like that, and we've got to be prepared for what they throw at us. Even if we are 1-0 up or 2-1 up or even down, we've got to have things in up our sleeves to change the game like they've done, and they've had success in the last couple of weeks, and it just alarms to you that obviously the Arrow have a lot of threats, especially in the dying minutes where they're going for the equaliser. So it shows a good character from their point of view. They're going to go to the last minute, and we've got to be ready for that if that's the case.
And yeah, just actually one last one. Obviously, they brought in, it was a fairly quiet window for them compared to you guys, but they brought in Jem Carrichan. Obviously,
yes.
He's been a big name in the past from other big clubs like your Reds and your Boltons, and has got experience in Europe, etc. I mean, what qualities does he possess? What we're going to watch out for him is to play a lot at a higher level. So he's bringing that down to League 2 almost.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a really good, talented player, great on the ball. Sees a pass, got good vision, good awareness. And obviously got a really good move to Galatasaray at one time, and now obviously he's playing for them, and we've got to be aware of his threats and respect to him, because he's a really talented player.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot, Conor.
Thank you.
Hello, Conor. It's just Leon at the Yorkshire Post.
Okay.
Yes, I've only got a couple. You were touching on the defensive, good statistics and doing well. Obviously, Niall Canavan, you brought him in. It seems to be he's been a big part of that, and as a new player coming in, he's been everything that you've wanted. It's like he's been here for a long time.
Yeah, Niall's gelled in really well into the back four. I'd probably say that Ant and Pawdy had done they'd played majority of those games and done really well defensively as well. So I think it's hard to just put it onto one person. Niall is Niall. Organises, he's cool, calm, heads everything. He's composed. He uses his body well, and he's been a really good signing. And we're looking to cement that chemistry even more and get them knowing each other's game inside out. And that relationship is crucial. But yeah, he's been a good signing so far.
Yeah, because those mainstays at the back now, they're really fundamentally important for any success, aren't they, in your division?
Yeah, of course. Again, if you're leaking goals, you're going to make it hard for yourself, and conceding goals puts worry into your minds, and to know that you've got a team full of players that work hard and don't want to concede. It allows you to go and hurt teams on the counter, and even if you're controlling games, to hurt them in a different way.
And just finally, I mean, if you do win tomorrow, you get to 51 points, and then psychologically getting past that 50 point, I think that'd be something. It'd be a big achievement and show how long way you've sort of come, really.
Yeah, I think, like you say, it'd be nice to get over that mark, and we'll see what happens. We'll give it a good go, and hoping the players perform, and we'll do everything in our powers to make that happen.
Brought to you by DIS, keeping companies connected with cloud-based solutions. Come on, City!